Hi, everybody. If you're just joining us, we have a poll for you to fill out while you're waiting to get started. And we'll take about 2 minutes for people to get into the room. We already have 100 people here. And while we're waiting, please fill out that poll. Let us know. Please indicate your position on the city of Tacoma, considering options regarding camping on public property. And we will pass it to Linda in just a couple minutes, although we already have 200 people here, Mayor.
That's awesome. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you here this evening. Very important community conversation. I'm glad all of you could join us.
Linda, would it help? Could you give any definitions on these terms in this poll for people who are this is new to?
So I already closed the poll because I won't be taking it.
Want to read it?
Yeah.
It says, please indicate your position on the city of Tacoma, considering options regarding camping on public property.
So this essentially means we're looking for the community's perspective on whether or not you think we should consider legislative options to address camping on public property, meaning any sort of prohibition to camping on public property.
Thank you. And just as some advice, we're going to keep this poll up through the entire event and share results at the end. So if it's in your way and it's blocking your view of our mayor or our council member, you can just click the X if you've already voted, and we'll share all the results at the end. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Linda. You can start whenever you feel ready.
All right, thank you, Kenny. We're at 233 folks here with us tonight. I just want to welcome everyone. I'm Linda Stewart, the Director of Neighborhood and Community Services at the City of Tacoma. And we want to thank you for spending your evening with us tonight. Kenny already told you about the poll that you see there, so please weigh in and our results will show later. We're going to start this evening with a welcome from Mayor Victoria Woodard, then proceed to a short review of information that was presented to the Community Vitality and Safety Committee on November 18th. Then we will move on to a moderated question and answer session, and then we'll discuss what's next. So Mayor Woodard will get us started. Mayor?
Great, thank you, Linda. And Linda, let me first start by thanking your entire team for all the work that you're doing around taking care of our houseless community. And then let me say thanks to everyone who's joined us tonight. I want to be very clear that tonight's community conversation is being hosted at the request of the Community Vitality and Safety Committee, or as we call them, CVS. On legislative options for camping on public property, and this isn't possible without you. I do want to take this opportunity. You will also see on screen Councilmember Catherine Ushka, who heads the Community Vitality and Safety Committee. She is the chair. And I also want to thank her for her leadership. We asked that this issue go to the CVS committee. She gladly said yes, to make sure that we could dive a little bit deeper into what a camping ban could look like for Tacoma. So I just want to recognize and thank her for her leadership. Let's talk about tonight. We want the focus tonight to remain on hearing your questions on how we as a community move forward. To ensure clarity as we do this, there is some background information I'd like to share with you all before we get started tonight. Legislation related to camping on public property has taken two tracks. On the first track, tonight's meeting was organized by our Community Vitality and Safety Committee, and the council sent this topic to CVS, and they wanted to be sure to hear all of your questions as a part of their process to develop a proposal to move forward to the full council. On a separate track, and many of you here tonight are aware of the fact that there is legislation on tomorrow night's council agenda that effectively proposes a camping ban. That legislation came forward separately from this process that our CVS committee has been working through. Now, while I recognize it will be hard to separate these two issues, I hope tonight you will be sure to share your questions and your ideas for the future of the legislative options for our camping on public property in Tacoma. If you have concerns about the legislation that came out last Thursday, the City Council meeting tomorrow includes a comment period for everything on the agenda. If you cannot make that meeting tomorrow night to comment, you can always email cityclerk@cityoftacoma.org until 4 p.m. tomorrow to ensure that your comments are received by the full City Council. Tonight, I want to invite you to honor the CVS committee's request. And I know it will be difficult, but I'd like you to honor that request and keep your focus on the future of legislative options for camping on public property. Tonight's discussion is not intended to focus on any specific ordinance, potential options for enforcement, or concerns about specific encampments. Tonight is specifically an opportunity to hear whether you support legislative options for camping on public property and why or why not. Again, I want to recognize Council Committee Chair, Councilmember Ushka, for being here to listen tonight, and again for her committee's commitment to pursuing community-informed solutions on this issue. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our Neighborhood and Community Services Director, Linda Stewart, to get us started, and she'll be running tonight's meeting. And again, Councilmember Ushka, thank you so much for your leadership. And Linda, thank you to you and Allison and the entire department for all the work that you're doing tonight. And I would be remiss if I didn't say there are 266 people on this call. So to all of you who have concerns about this issue, thanks to all of you for taking time out of your Monday to be here. Again, think about what the future looks like tonight, and we can focus on the legislation that's on tomorrow's agenda tomorrow. So thanks to all of you for being here, and we look forward to a very fruitful discussion tonight, and we hope to learn so much more from our community. Thank you all so much. Linda, I pass it to you.
Thank you, Mayor Woodards, and thank you, Councilmember Ushka. As the mayor reflected, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to gather community perspectives on legislative options to address camping on public property. This is a council initiative, and staff are here tonight to facilitate the conversation and gather information for council consideration. While we're not able to address specific encampment concerns or questions about enforcement, with me tonight so they can hear your perspective firsthand are Assistant City Attorney Keith Echterling. And folks, will you turn your cameras on so everyone can see your face while I introduce you? Hi, Keith. Assistant Tacoma Police Chief Ed Wade, Tacoma Police Captain Sean Stringer. We've also got NCS Assistant Director Allison Griffith here. She's driving the slide deck for us tonight. And she's also going to be responding behind the scenes to any questions that can be easily addressed tonight. But all questions and comments will be submitted to the Community Vitality and Safety Committee and then also posted to the city website. Moderating tonight's question and answer session and managing the poll is Moderator Extraordinaire Kenny Coble of the Media and Communications Office. And we're also joined by Megan Snow, also of Media and Communications, and our ever-ready partner on all things media and community relations. So let's go into the agenda. So here's where we're going tonight. We heard some introductory remarks. We want to review some of the information that was presented to CVS on the 18th. And then we also want to listen to and gather your input. Slide 3. So as I mentioned, the information shared tonight was previously shared with CVS. We are sharing a portion of it. We want to provide a high-level overview, but we want to make sure we have time for the main event, which is hearing your questions and concerns. If you'd like to listen to the recording of the November 18th CVS meeting, which includes the entire presentation made by the City Attorney's Office, Allison is going to post it into the meeting chat. So let's get started on some of the background. So I mentioned that this was at the council's request, that work continued to explore options to address unlawful camping in Tacoma. On November 9th, 2021, the City Council referred Ordinance 28756 to the CVS Committee to review options. And this would be to address camping throughout the city. A presentation was made, and then further discussion is scheduled for this Thursday, December 9th, during which time staff will present themes identified tonight during this meeting. Federal case law, including the Boise decisions and the U.S. and state constitutions impact and limit enforcement actions. Boise controls enforcement considerations for Tacoma, including when and where any camping ordinance could apply. And we have not conducted encampment cleanups without being able to offer shelter to individuals at the location being addressed. So if we take a look at slide 3 here, I'm just going to, or excuse me, this is slide 4. I talked a little bit about the Tacoma Municipal Code, but we did have an unlawful camping ordinance throughout the city that expired in 2019. And we have a variety of options to explore for moving forward. Slide 5. So any new unlawful camping ordinance could assist in addressing the health, sanitation, and safety issues for individuals in encampments and for the community. A geographic area to which the ordinance applies will depend on what type of ordinance, what is the scope, and what is ultimately adopted. And a camping ordinance could be geographically limited, time frame limited, or even a combination of both. Here's a little bit of information about items under consideration by council that I mentioned in the previous slide. Will it be, would the legislative action be a prohibition citywide, or would it apply to a specific geographic area? Would there be a limitation to certain hours or a 24/7 prohibition? And whether a violation of any prohibition would be classified as a crime or a civil infraction. So let's let that sit for a half a second so that folks can read the entire thing. I won't read it all. All of this will be posted on the city website for your review later. Let's go ahead and move to the slide 7. Again, we want to move really quickly through this information so that we can start listening. So as we mentioned, the priority for tonight is to hear from you all. We will present the themes from what we hear tonight during the meeting with CVS on Thursday. That meeting begins at 4:30 and public comment can be taken. There's also an item on the agenda for tomorrow's regular council meeting, which means that public comment can be made tomorrow during the regular council meeting that starts at 5 p.m. And we're concluding our presentation now, and we want to move into the moderated session. We've got 282 people here. I doubt that we will be able to address everybody's questions that are posed in the chat, but again, they will all be posted to the city website. We will send all of the information to the city community, the standing committee, the Community Vitality and Safety Committee, and you can also send those additional comments to shelters@cityoftacoma.org. So I think that concludes my piece of the presentation. And now, Kenny, do you want to go ahead and take it over in terms of what we can expect and how we'll flow from here?
Happy to do it, Linda. I just noticed I was unmuted that whole time. Good thing I wasn't singing my little Adele songs. I'm very talented. You would have all enjoyed it, but then we would have had copyright issues. Thanks everybody for being here. So Linda is here to answer your questions and take all comments that we received today to CVS. I'm actually going to first ask you one question before I explain everything. Someone asked, what is CVS? Can you just tell them one more time?
Yes, CVS is a Community Vitality and Safety Committee, and it's a standing committee of the Tacoma City Council, and it's made up of council members.
Thank you. So thanks, Nola, for that question. So we're going to pass all these comments to CVS. We're going to pass the poll results, which we'll share at the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take anything y'all post in that Q&A in writing. So click that Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window, and you can write a question or you can write a comment. If you do write a comment, will you just let us know really straightforward if you support or oppose the camping ban? If you do that, then I'll try to make sure I go back and forth between opposition and support, just so I'm not leaving any perspective out. And with that, why don't we just get to questions? I'll explain that one more time if you missed the instructions. I'm just going to go through the questions we have. We only have a couple. Oh, we have 17 already. All right. Let's see. This person, this is from Joan. Joan says, if camping is the term being used, would the board define it? Or Linda, please.
Would I define camping?
Yep, and how we're using it.
So for purposes of this discussion, the council is looking at anybody who is in an encampment on public property. So staying there overnight with their belongings.
All right, this is a question from Maya. How do you reckon with the over $1 million spent on sweeps in the last year, how can that money be spent in a restorative, compassionate, and more long-term way through investing in smaller social support groups?
So this is a great question, and this is one that we spend a lot of time noodling on, actually. We're looking at how we can partner with folks in the community to identify locations for places where people can be instead of sleeping out on the street. That's a community conversation, and I invite everyone to participate in it. Alternative responses to how we respond to individuals in encampments that either need shelter or other supportive services. That is a process where the community can help inform us, and then the city can look at how we're prioritizing our funding to meet those needs. So I'm always open to suggestions, and a great place to make your suggestions would be during the public comment periods at either the Community Vitality and Safety Committee or the council meetings on this topic.
Thank you. And we mostly have questions for now, so I'll focus on that, but we'll definitely be putting in quick comments. This question is from Shoko. Camping includes cars and vans in addition to tents or anything else?
So it's really the occupation of public property for a way that it wasn't intended. So it would be the occupation of cars or vehicles. And again, the city has inquired of the community about how we can support safe parking locations. So always hoping to hear about how we can do that.
And I know you answered this, but I think it's really good to help people with clarity if you answered again. Will these results get to the full council by tomorrow, or is that a separate track? This is a question from Jeremy.
So as the mayor mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this particular meeting is to look at the matter that was referred to the Community Vitality and Safety Committee. The results of tonight will be referred to the Community Vitality and Safety Committee, and I will talk to the mayor and to the city manager about how to share the results with the broader city council.
Thanks, Linda. This question is from Andrea. Forgive me if I said your name wrong. Has the city considered alternatives to the camping ban, such as an RV safe park or safe camps?
Yes, Kenny, absolutely. We are looking right now at a potential location for a different type, an alternate to the temporary emergency micro shelter sites, to the stability site, to the permanent shelter locations. We're always looking at those alternatives.
I'm going to ask one more clarifying question. This one from Rob. Would this ban make it illegal to sleep in your car parked on the street?
You know, I can't really answer that because we don't know what the language will be in an ordinance, or if an ordinance will even be passed by the council. So that would be a question that would be much easier to answer once we have the specific language of the ordinance.
Thank you. Oh, we're starting to get comments. I'm going to do a few more questions first. Thanks, folks. This is a question from Mary Jo. What portion of unhoused residents are actually from Tacoma? Do you have that data?
That is a matter of great debate, and we do not have the specific data. No, we do not. We have some numbers from the county where they have done some research, but we do not currently know that.
Thank you. Question from Marilyn. Can you define what is public property?
So public property is anything that is owned by the city. So sidewalks, streets, right-of-ways, perhaps even parking lots or spaces that are owned by the city intended for use as parking or otherwise.
Thank you. Now, this is from Travis. Why is there no conversation about building more shelters or tiny houses?
Well, actually, the city just participated in the acquisition of the Comfort Inn with the county, with Pierce County, to acquire an entire hotel site that would increase our capacity to shelter folks. We also are looking at how we can help existing permanent shelter providers with expanding their capacity. So we're always in those conversations.
All right, I'm going to read a few comments, and I want to remind folks, if you specifically state if you oppose or support the camping ban, that'll make it a little easier for me to ensure I go back and forth between perspectives. So this first one is from Julie. I support a camping ban. How long before an encampment could be removed?
Well, you know, we actually do address encampments now without a camping ban. And we address encampments now when there is a compelling reason to do so. And those compelling reasons are usually around public safety or the need to perform some sort of construction or utility project at the location, or maybe the access that has been made to maybe a wetland or another type of environmentally sensitive area. But we actually have addressed 6 areas over the last 6 months. But the specific question about when an encampment would be addressed, again, until there is an ordinance and there is something to act under, I can't answer that question. The answer is we do address encampments now.
Thanks. And just for folks' awareness, I'm going to read some comments, which will be a little funny because we want to make sure we're listening to folks. So Linda's not going to respond or defend. She'll probably just say thank you, and we'll keep reading comments. So this is from Ember. They say, I oppose the camping ban. Banning camping will only solve the problems listed insofar as it results in people dying of exposure. If the city wishes to improve safety and conditions in encampments, they should create free public campsites. All right, let's see if I can find a do not or a support. Sorry, this is a little trickier than I thought it would be.
I don't know why you're having a problem, Kenny. We only have 300 people here.
I know. Okay, I might switch back to questions, but next time I ask a comment, it'll be one that's in support. This is from Ty. Isn't it illegal to force someone who is camping to move unless they have a viable alternative place to stay that's offered to them? In the case where congregate shelters are already overflowing, doesn't a camping ban violate the law? What about people who don't feel safe in congregate shelters due to health or other concerns?
So this is where we want to make sure that we have a diversity of options. So for example, today, as of this meeting, we've got 27 available shelter beds. Now, does that mean that 27 people will find their way there? Not necessarily, because not everyone is going to want to take advantage or can take advantage of this type of shelter. Some of them are in a congregate setting. Some of them are in a micro shelter location. That's why it's so important that we continue to find this other alternative where we can offer folks who either don't want to or cannot because of their trauma, because of their right to choose where they are. They need to have an alternative location.
Thank you. This is a comment in support that includes a question that you can answer. It's from Mandy. I support a legislative camping ban because I believe it is inhumane to allow camping on public property. I'm a business owner with an office downtown, as well as a resident of the North End. I serve on 2 city manager appointed task force, including permitting and parking. My question is for law enforcement representatives. I still think you'll probably answer at least, or Linda. If a ban were imposed, what is your recommendation for a humane response to the individual who is breaking the law? What does the city need to do to support that effort?
So thank you. And we do have some law enforcement partners here, but I think I can take that one on. We work together with our mental health providers, all of our service providers, and our advocates to try to figure out what is best for the individuals in the encampments. It doesn't always seem that way, but that's our priority. That's our mission. And we also want to try to mitigate the impacts of the encampments on the surrounding businesses. Like this person said, hey, I've got a business and it's being impacted. So we have to balance the needs of everyone in the city when we look at how we are going to put together a plan that provides services, that provides a menu of options, and that provides an ongoing dialogue with the community about how we mitigate the impacts. That's what this conversation is about, to collect all of these types of perspectives so that we can keep in the center of that conversation and understand what everyone's perspective is.
Kristen asked if there will be an opportunity to make comments or only post questions. Kristen, you can definitely put your comments in the chat here, and then I'm going to ask Linda to remind us other opportunities for people to give comment, especially if they want to speak, as opposed to turning them in writing like we are today.
So as a reminder, and maybe Allison, I'm not tracking the chat right now, but if you want to make sure, Allison, you put in the Tacoma City Council meeting opportunity tomorrow, and that City Council meeting starts at 5 p.m. Public comment is taken on any item on the agenda. And then also on Thursday, December 9th is the Community Vitality and Safety Committee. Remember, that's the council standing committee. And that's where staff will be presenting what we hear, the themes of what we hear tonight will go to that committee on Thursday. And public comment is always taken at Community Vitality and Safety Committee.
Thank you. Here's a comment from Rob. The city should focus its energy on creating safe and appropriate shelter options that people are actually willing to use. Too often I hear the narrative that people, quote, didn't accept services, or worse yet, quote, didn't accept housing. This is harmful. I think it is safe to say that no one wants to have people living along streets and sidewalks in Tacoma, but we have to offer options that people will choose to use. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, and Rob, I think thank you for that comment. I think that's a version of what I've been saying during the meeting. So happy to be in good company there.
All right, this is a comment from Joan, says, I oppose a camping ban. And I apologize, this is the second comment I've read from Joan. I will try to get to as many other people. It's just the one that was right in front of me. Joan says, I oppose a camping ban. As risky and dangerous as encampments are, the methods of moving people are traumatic and horrifying. For example, people losing their belongings or pets. It's complicated, but I do not believe in the camping ban. Appreciate their comment. All right, comment from Ruben, or question from Ruben. What is preventing the Tacoma police from brutalizing citizens during sweeps? I told Linda there would be no softballs.
Well, I'm hearing the implication that occurs, and I don't have any information that does occur. So if there is something that I don't know about, maybe we need to talk about that. What happens in actuality is that our homeless outreach team, which is the Tacoma Police Department, and outreach workers from Neighborhood and Community Services, and now walking together with individuals from our advocate community and some folks that have joined our community from the Lived Experience Coalition, we are trying all to work together to make sure that folks are relocated with dignity and respect.
Thank you. This is a question from Leah. Can you be more specific about how you've reached out to community about alternatives, such as looking for safe parking locations, and who tends to see those appeals from you? In other words, when you say you're looking for new ideas, where are those inquiries directed? The larger community feels vague to this person.
So mostly we make this appeal through the Tacoma Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. I have not recently, but I have gone to the meetings and asked for folks to let me know what they're thinking. We have talked with individuals who have either participated in the coalition or are operating safe parking locations. We are talking with existing providers about how they can expand and diversify their operations. We talk with the faith-based community about what they're willing to host, and safe parking is and can be a part of that. Our Tacoma Municipal Code does not restrict that from use. It doesn't prohibit safe parking as a use.
Thanks, Linda. This is a question from Erica. It seems that some of the biggest complaints about encampments are about cleanliness and sanitation. What are some challenges the city has with providing services, i.e. waste management, to encampments? Are there any visions to improve those services to the benefit of all city residents, including houseless neighbors?
So we actually, the city actually does deploy services across all council districts, all 5 council districts, to address garbage and debris, not only associated with encampments, but a lot of folks actually dump their own material, unwanted items close to encampments, and just figure it will be blamed on the encampments. And so we actually deploy resources to address all of those. We have placed sanitation services at encampments. We had this at 8th and Yakima. We currently have it at 705 and A Street. In addition to the sanitation at 705 and A Street, that means bathrooms. We have garbage collection that occurs there twice a day. We've also programmed our vendors to go down there more often if we need to. And we work with community members. There have been some community members who have been more willing to work with us and tell us what they need. So for example, we're expanding purple bags to folks in encampments with the hopes that we can also encourage the folks who are there to gather their own materials. You know, we have to be careful that we're not actually collecting materials that are someone's belongings and throwing them away. So having the folks who are in the encampments participate is a really, it's a really good way of avoiding that.
Thank you. I'm seeing a few comments about people unsure if their questions are being skipped. Just want to remind folks we have 163 comments and questions. We're definitely not going to get to everyone tonight. This meeting is to provide as much information as we can while also sharing your comments and concerns. Everything you write though will be passed on to CVS and council, as Linda had mentioned, and we are definitely going to take everything we hear today. So with all that chatting, I missed my next comment. Okay, this is from Jessica. Jessica says, I support a camping ban. What other mechanism would there be to connect addicts or mentally ill campers to compulsory services that might better support them? If they refuse a safe alternative, how is it compassionate to let them move deeper into that position and to leave them in that situation?
You know, the question of compulsory treatment always fascinates me because I don't believe we can compel folks to do that. Folks have the ability to make their decisions, and if they don't, then we have resources that can help them when they're not able to take care of themselves. That is what we need to do in terms of focusing our resources on the encampments, is providing more of that support so folks can get out of that day-to-day worry of where they're going to sleep, where they're going to go to the bathroom, where they're going to get their food, so that they can focus on whether or not they're ready for some sort of support, how we can transition them into a more stable environment is going to mean that they can make better decisions. But I'm like I said, I'm fascinated by that compulsory. How can we compel someone, basically force them to do something? That's just a fascinating question that I get quite frequently.
All right, next is from Seth. They say, I strongly oppose the camping ban. There is no immediate solution to Tacoma's housing crisis. The only solution is to build more and more affordable housing. The Home in Tacoma plan proposed by the Planning Commission is key to that solution, but City Council just amended that plan to cut back on new mid-scale construction. If the city is serious about reducing the number of people sleeping outside, it should rescind those amendments and enact the original Home in Tacoma plan. All right, next. Okay, this is from Initial A. I support a camping ban on public property. How will you support residents whose land is adjacent to public property, example, the right-of-way? Understanding there is no ordinance at this time to enforce it is very challenging and costly, and it's costly to clean up. It seems like there's little to no support for private homeowners in this situation, and they should not be subjected to cleaning up needles, human feces, and other hazards caused by campers. Is there any discussion to offer any recourse or support?
Well, actually, it's an inaccuracy that the city does not help the adjacent private property owners or the private property owners where there is an existing encampment. So just this year, our department, Neighborhood and Community Services, made the intentional effort to switch some of our programming to make resources available for private property owners so that they can address the what's called the nuisance issues associated with garbage and debris at encampments at no cost to them. And we have done this multiple times, and we have made a request with the City Council for additional funding, moving funding from our building demo fund, which is existing funding, into this fund so that we can not put the burden on private property owners to address this nuisance code issue. The nuisance code was not written with homelessness in mind. And so we are also reviewing the nuisance code so that we can understand how we may be putting unnecessary financial impact on individuals privately who own private property, and where the city can step in and intervene on that.
Thank you. This next comment is from Patrick. They say, I do not support the camping ban. I currently work in the behavioral health sector, focusing on forensics in the homelessness population who are experiencing persistent mental health concerns. I wholeheartedly believe that the camping ban and consequential criminal and financial penalties are unethical and inappropriate for that demographic and will cost more to impose and enforce than it will be worth long-term. Please oppose the ban and instead work with agencies that are focused on alleviating the issues related to homelessness to resolve concerns. The homeless population of Tacoma needs a well-rounded, humane, and sustainable approach that does not penalize them for something they have little to no control over. Thank you, Patrick.
Kenny, can I just make a comment here?
Yeah.
So along these lines, the draft Tacoma 5-year homeless strategy that we're working on right now does factor in prevention and housing as really the corner pieces of addressing issues of homelessness. Crisis response and intervention is of course always going to be part of it, but until we look upstream and fund more prevention, fund those services and the support services that are necessary for prevention, and also build additional housing stock, we will perpetually be in this kind of hamster wheel that I feel I'm in most of the time to find the shelter solution. Shelter solution isn't enough. We want to be able to prevent homelessness and then also transition folks out of shelter into housing.
Thank you. At 6:07, we got 3 questions in a row, so let's do all of them. Emily asks, is there a person with a background in mental health who is consistently attached to city council? And I think maybe more generally, do we have mental health professionals on staff?
On city staff?
Correct.
Not that I know of.
All right, quick answer. Next question is from Regina. What percentage of city budget is being consumed by dealing with encampments to include all services?
So we can look up that data point. I think, Allison, we have that. Maybe you can put it up into the chat if you can find it. You're probably furiously answering other questions, but if you have that, Allison, would you put it up into the chat for us?
Thank you. This question is from Sally. For options that include legal penalties like fines and jail time, what is the logic behind assuming the threat of fines or jail time will be successful in persuading people to accept shelter?
I don't have an answer for that because I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that is a motivating factor. I do know that there are cities that have, when there have been fines imposed on individuals who cannot pay them, they're required to be waived. So all of that is part of the consideration of in this issue. It's a great question.
All right. Sorry, I forget if I'm on the support or oppose, but the next one is a support the camping ban from Toby. They say, I've watched the police clean camps and they are beyond thoughtful, peaceful, and professional. I'm going to find a comment that's in opposition. This is from Morgan. They say, I wholeheartedly oppose the camping ban. This is a ban on public survival, and it is inhumane to support it. Stop the sweeps and end the criminalization of the unhoused. Thank you, Morgan and Toby. Okay, question from Mark. Many of those in encampments won't take the offer of a shelter because of the barriers, such as no pets, no secure storage, couples being separated, etc. What is being done to create low barrier or non-barrier shelters?
Well, so we continue to search for property that can be used for this purpose, for a place where people can go that is not an emergency micro shelter site, which, by the way, couples can go to, and you can have pets there. The stability site, which takes couples, and our faith-based temporary emergency shelters also take couples. But this and the storage of belongings, the pets, the couples, a different type of environment that is available now. That is what's being done. We're trying to look for the location. So you need a location, and you need a provider, and you need funding. So I believe that the City Council has conveyed that they are interested in funding such an endeavor. We need the location and we need the provider. So we keep pushing on those 3 things.
Thank you. All right. This is a comment from Brian. They support the camping ban. Couldn't an alternative be found by allowing community members in favor of uncontrolled encampments to provide their private yards to allow unhoused people to form an encampment in their yard. It satisfies two goals by allowing the camping and to allow those people in favor of uncontrolled encampments from being near the encampments to provide the charity they directly support. I think that was a rhetorical question. A good correction from Emily, which I appreciate. Emily says, when are we going to stop referring to people as addicts and start calling them a person experiencing an addiction? Thank you for that, Emily. This is a comment from Claudia. Claudia says, the only group without a voice tonight are the people who will be punished and fined for existing, but we're not talking to those people. Okay. Sorry, give me just a second to find the next comments or questions.
I just want to focus on that last comment, if you don't mind, Kenny,
Please.
just for a moment. And when the information about tonight's conversation went out to the community, and I did just crack into some of the Q&A, I do see some folks from the community who represent folks with lived experience. And I would think that they would want to invite folks with that lived experience and perhaps folks who they are connecting with to participate in the conversation. So I'll just invite them tonight to make sure that they're doing their outreach to the folks that they represent, to get them to the public comment opportunities at council, and then also at future meetings on this topic. We are also, when we are doing our outreach at encampments, this was starting last summer, we are talking with individuals in the encampments about what it is they want. And that is what has been informing us about this alternative location, a different alternative than the permanent shelter, the faith-based shelters, the micro shelter sites, and the stability sites. The folks in the encampments themselves have told us that they need something different. But I would encourage the folks who I see on the list here, who I have heard are connected and connecting to the individuals in the encampments, to try to assist them to having their voice be heard in these particular meetings. I think it would be very powerful.
Thank you. And there may be people who are just joining us. I want to let you know that you can ask your questions or give comments in the Q&A. You can do that by pressing the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you do have a comment, if you put a direct statement saying you oppose or support a camping ban, that'll help me make sure I go back and forth between those two perspectives. All right, our next comment in opposition is from Devin. They say, sorry, need to find the beginning of the question. I believe we have the opportunity for transformative change. The city has over $60 million in American Rescue Plan money, along with the county's well over $100 million, and $45 million in new tax funds dedicated explicitly for affordable housing. Why is the city tinkering with policies that criminalize life for our most vulnerable, rather than dramatically expanding housing and social services at the scale we need? Appreciate that. Oh, are you going to respond, Linda? Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to point to the Affordable Housing Action Strategy and how the Resolution 40622, the council's resolution to transform Tacoma, build an anti-racist organization and city and community, and also the homeless strategy and the Affordable Housing Action Strategy are all linked. And at the core of that is really breaking down the systems and the barriers that have created homelessness. And while we're looking at how to use our ARPA dollars, again, investing in shelter is the thing that we have to do right now. But there's going to be an intentional shift in focus starting in 2024 to invest more heavily in supportive housing, operations of supportive housing, because we're hoping that the programming of the housing tax resources will result in some additional housing inventory coming on in the next couple of years. So we are trying to do it all.
Thank you. And Councilmember Ushka, who is listening in, reminded me of something important. Every comment that you turn in is going to be submitted to the council committee CVS. So I know people are going to be frustrated because we have over 200 that we haven't gotten to yet. We will definitely not get to everything, but just know that everything will be given to council to CVS, and they will go over all of your comments. Let's keep going. All right, I believe next is a support. This is from Beth. I support a ban on public camping. It is unsafe and inhumane for the campers and the citizenry. Can legislation address the following? 1, shelter. 2, a specific campground for individuals where there is a designated space and services as opposed to wherever someone chooses to camp.
So I think those are the types of considerations that the council is going to have to reflect on. But again, the intention is to have shelter available for everybody who needs it. That is something that the city and the county are aligned to together. And I know the county's Shelter for All plan has a plan for that. They are talking about that. We have been sitting in the shelter work group on their plan. We also have been participating in their comprehensive homeless strategy work group, and we support their plan. And we want our plan to align with the Pierce County plan.
Linda, I don't usually like paraphrasing, but we got a few responses reactions to your better funding path in 2024, implying that it's 2021 and we can't wait, that they wanted to hear what you were thinking about now, in particular with all of that money that was mentioned in that comment from ARPA, et cetera.
Yeah. So the emphasis now is on shelter. That is where and I'm hoping that we can get it something. Again, I can't see in the chat. So if our funding that we are committing to shelter can be put up, but we aren't waiting. I know that Mercy Housing has a development going in on the Hilltop. I know that there is additional supportive housing being planned. So we're not waiting until 2024. We are programming the use of resources to look differently starting in 2024.
Linda, this might be a question for council, but let's see if you can do it. How can we, this is from Rebecca, so I'm assuming they are speaking from the perspective of residents. How can we hold council accountable and make sure they're actually addressing the questions posed in this meeting?
So I think that is a good question to pose to council in public comment.
Thank you, thank you. You can come tomorrow, you can come next Tuesday.
And you can come on Thursday at CVS.
Yes, and I believe those are the last 2 council meetings of 2021. So if you'd like to, please come to those meetings. I'll be helping in the background. If you have questions on how to do that, you can email me at kcoble@cityoftacoma.org. And maybe Allison will put that in the chat. All right. Sorry.
And Kenny, I see a pretty steady, actually, I see our numbers are going down, but I just want to remind folks that if you haven't completed the poll, go ahead and do that. And once you complete it, you can't do it again, but so you should be able to pop it up. So Kenny, will you explain how they get to it if they haven't done it yet? Oh, is it saying, is it polls?
Yep, there's a polls button that you can press. Yep, and it should still be there. You know what, Linda, so many people have already answered that I think we're past the point of where anything would change. Do you want to see the results? Although we told the mayor we'd wait till the end, never mind. We'll
let's wait a little bit longer.
Okay, so next, this is from Brianna. They say, I support the camping ban. What happened to enforcing laws? Self-responsibility. Part of life is having to do things you may not want to do. Refusing help does not give one the right to do just as they please. The rest of the community is paying the consequences, literally. It's been said that the solution needs to be fair for all, but the city has been catering to these people. And then a comment in opposition of the camping ban from Les. They say, is the city willing to work with local contractors and community folks to build proper structures to offer cover and sanitary restrooms that are built on the vast land holdings of the city, even if we carry our own liability insurance with services in place?
So I'll say again, Kenny, that if folks have ideas for structures or a model or land, I mean, we have looked at hundreds of parcels of land owned by the city. We've brought them forward for council consideration. We'll continue to do that in those public discussions. But if anyone has any ideas, please send them to the shelter. Will you, Allison, put up the shelter email address again, and then we'll follow up on that.
Thank you. This is a comment from Zanetta. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. We have folks who will be in public comment tomorrow also. We want to make sure that we uplift their voices. Number one, first and foremost, those on the streets in Pierce County want to make sure you are thinking of the issues they are facing every day. Someone stating you are not ready for options is not fair to tell people when they're asking for it. Zanetta, if there's more support that I can offer those folks so it's a little easier for them to give comment, please email me. I'd be happy to help with that. I know it can be different depending on someone's access to the internet. All right. Let's see. I am not sure if we're on support or opposed, so I'm going to do support again. This is from Jay. They say, I support the camping ban. I live downtown. There used to be no tents. Then there was one. I now have 3 tents on my block. They remain there unabated. The rubbish is piling up. The wanderers are coming around too. And this makes me think that my neighbors feel very unsafe since some of them are making open threats. I came upon a homeless man that was on parole, and it took 20 minutes for the police to arrive to remove them. I tell people moving here was a mistake. What do you tell families that are looking to move to Tacoma? I'm going to call that a rhetorical question. Okay, let me find a question in opposition. Or a comment in opposition, just a moment. Sorry, there's 237, and they're of course not in an order that helps me as a moderator. Okay, let's read this one from Lamont. Lamont is against the camping ban. A ban on camping on public property is inhumane given the current crisis, given that homelessness is a racial justice, disability justice, and for young people, an LGBTQ justice issue. How does a camping ban on public property align with the Tacoma's values of becoming an anti-racist city as outlined in Resolution 40622, Heal the Heart, and other transformation initiatives? Wow, that one, Lamont, you did your homework. All right. Thank you to this person actually who reposted their thing, because if it is very possible I've missed it. So Athena, I'm going to read your comment. Athena says, pose a camping ban. For anyone who supports the camping ban, where do they expect houseless people to go? My plea is for the council to not consider a camping ban of any kind until we have adequate services and housing available for all our houseless neighbors. Instead, please focus efforts on addressing the root cause of homelessness with humanity and compassion. Pushing houseless folks out of Tacoma will not solve the problem. We need to come together as a community to lift all boats. And thank you, Athena, for putting that a couple of times. I apologize that I missed it.
And Kenny, if I can just add, I did just have the opportunity to look at the chat. And Allison, thank you for posting that the city had $9 million dedicated to sheltering services in the current biennial budget. We also received an additional $14 million in federal funds to support our services through 2023. So that is information that is there in the chat. And then also in the chat, if you have ideas or you want to get in touch with us, there is the shelters at cityoftacoma.org address for you to write to us.
Let's ask you a budget question since you brought up budget. If only approximately 4% of Tacoma's general fund is allocated for social services, what is the assurance that more effort will be put forth to direct needed resources for people who are unhoused and often face mental health and substance use issues, forgive me.
Yeah.
That's from Eva.
Well, part of the assurance is part of what council is authorizing right now as we go into the start of 2022, and that is to increase the size and the scope of our homeless outreach team, adding a vehicle, a van, so that we can help with transporting folks to shelter or housing when it becomes available, including transporting their belongings. Also, we're going to increase our team from 2 outreach workers to 5 starting in 2022. So that is an intentional increase in neighborhood and community services resources that we can program in direct support of outreach to individuals experiencing. We also have several $1 million allocated to the renovation of the Beacon Activity Center, where the young adult shelter is operating. We increased the budget for operations of the young adult shelter and actually brought a fantastic new operator into town who is going to be really enhancing the services for the young people there. And the first day, actually, they were under contract. They actually got a young person into housing from the shelter there. So those are a couple examples of some of the increases in neighborhood and community services. And as we build the budget for 23 to 24, the next biennial budget, we'll want to contemplate how we can leverage the use of our mental health substance use sales tax revenue, our general fund revenue, our other special revenue to do even more.
I think I read 2 opposed in a row, so I'm going to read 2 support in a row. This is from Brett. They say, I fear waiting for shelter options to exist before enacting a camping ban will result in never making meaningful progress getting people resources to stabilize themselves. We should enact a ban immediately and work with compassion to get people stabilized as soon as resources exist, to remove them from the utterly inhumane, unsafe, and unsanitary conditions many campers are experiencing. And the next comment in support says, when there is a safety issue for private citizens walking or working on property near encampments and TPD tells us they can't do anything, who can we call for assistance?
So this is one where I think I'm going to ask Chief Wade to come on because I know Chief Wade and I get this type of question a lot. And so I don't want to answer for my police department partners. So Chief Wade, if you want to come on and take that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Linda. I suggest that any time that anybody is feeling something is unsafe, they call 911. When the police respond, our primary focus is to protect and serve. In those cases where we do not have enforcement opportunities, or I want to say, or want to take enforcement, we are requiring our officers to respond and assess the situation. A lot of those times, those calls for service or those things can be diverted to 311, where we can partner with NCS and other partners, including our dedicated DCR or our mental health worker to assist in these things. But again, if you are experiencing an unsafe situation where you feel yourself or somebody else's safety is in danger, call 911.
Thank you, Chief.
This is a question from Michelle. How much does it cost per day to house someone in the jail? And since we're on the budget and only 4% goes to social services, how much is dedicated to public safety?
So I don't have those data points, but we certainly can research it and put them into the response that's posted on the city website.
Okay, this is from Samantha. They say the city is considering creating a crisis response team with only 8 staff reporting to the new Office of Community Safety, but is also considering over $5 million in extra resources to policing. Is the city open to putting all of that money into a non-police crisis team that is full-time and 24/7?
So I can only respond to the first part of that in terms of the creating, alternative response team. And I'm not aware that any decisions have been made about that. And I'm in the conversations with the police chief and the fire chief and others who are looking at that. So I can't really comment on that, and I don't know where that came from.
I see some people wondering if you can submit multiple comments and questions. You definitely can. I'm not saying I'll read them tonight, but they'll definitely be going to CBS. You can say as much as you want to council as you'd like. All right, the next question is from Jonathan. Maybe it's more of a comment. Well, we'll see what happens. This is from Jonathan. They say the group Downtown Emergency Services Center in Seattle accepts anyone, including active substance users and people with significant mental health problems. That seems a lot more open than faith-based services. Is the city pursuing any services similar to DESC? What do you think?
Actually, I am in a conversation right now with a provider about a quote unquote low barrier site.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to look for, I believe we're on support. Give me a second to find one. Okay, this is from Steve. They say, I support the camping ban. People who are mentally ill need to be housed, perhaps permanently, and receive appropriate treatment. And that is all of that comment I'm going to read because I need a second to process that. Sorry about that. I'm gonna read just what I come across. It's getting a little too hard for me to organize. Sorry, people. Sorry, everybody. This is from Jared. They say, I support a camping ban. Allowing camping promotes more people camping in Tacoma. If we don't have camping as an option, then people experiencing homelessness will be forced to choose services that ultimately help them. Let's learn a lesson from Seattle. Camping brings property crime, in this person's opinion. Actually, I'm not going to read the rest of this comment. Sorry, everybody. Don't mean to censor people. The one thing that I'm not going to read are allegations that we can't provide evidence for. So sorry about that. All right. This is from Julie. They say, I've lived at the Baycrest for almost 25 years now with no car break-ins until the encampment. I've had to put my SUV back together 3 times due to all the damage from people crawling the block. I'm not the only one experiencing these problems. Are you planning on providing more funding for the police and perhaps give them back some of their options to deal with the rampant criminal problems downtown? Thank you. Okay. All right, this is from Amy. Amy says they are against the camping ban. As a resident, I'm appalled at the city's repeated use of city money and police for inhumane sweeps to push unhoused people from one place to the next without sufficient and extended wraparound housing and support services. Criminalization is not ethical or just. Appreciate your comment, Amy. Okay, this is a question from Benjamin. They say they're opposed to the camping ban, but the question is, solutions entertained by city leadership need to realize that encampments represent a basic public need. To suggest that a ban would improve a variety of public health and safety goals or interests place the health and, oh, sorry, there's a typo and I'm having a hard time. Okay, let me try this again. To suggest that a ban would improve a variety of public health and safety goals or places the health and safety of people needing to shelter in place below the intended, appropriate, or fair uses of public spaces. Instead of banning encampments, has CVS and the council considered recognizing camping as a legitimate temporary use of public space? Is leadership willing to shift ideas of what constitutes an appropriate use of public space until our government can provide permanent solutions? Thanks for that comment.
Can I just comment just very
Yeah.
quickly on that? So for example, the stability site that operates right now, it's been in operation since 2017. That is actually on city-owned property. Let's see, we have a temporary emergency micro shelter site at 69th and Proctor. That is also property that has been acquired by the city. So we are looking at how we can utilize our city property and those are two very long-term shelter sites. So we are looking at that. We also actually got an inquiry today from a private property owner who was interested in talking with us about the use of their property.
This is a comment from Maureen, a real-time issue that Maureen is helping manage. Maureen says, while we are listening tonight, the News Tribune is asking me if I can help a couple living in their car at 2nd and Portland. There is no after-hours number or help that I know of. What would you like me to tell them now? Is there an after-hours support number?
Well, we can look it up and see if we can post it. I don't have it memorized. We can definitely try to figure that one out.
Maureen will get that number in the chat. All right, this question is from Tex. Why does the city feel it's appropriate to only build housing sites, I would assume this means shelters, in areas that are historically occupied by Black, Indigenous, and other people of color? Why aren't sites being built in the North End?
There's actually a micro shelter site on 6th and Orchard. And can you go back to the question before that? Because I wanted to make sure the question wasn't about a provider number or a staff number. I want to make sure I understood the question, Kenny.
The News Tribune is asking me if I can help a couple living in their car at 2nd and Portland. That might be a typo, it might be 72nd, I'm not sure. There is no after hours number or help that I know of. To help someone in real time in the evening.
Well, so I think the most appropriate location for that inquiry would be the rescue mission, and I can see about how we can make it better known how to get to those folks after hours.
All right, thank you. We have about 15 more minutes and 267 comments and questions we haven't gotten to yet. I think this is the most we've gotten in any event, so I apologize that we're not going to get to everybody. I can tell there are a couple of people frustrated thinking I'm skipping your questions, and that is only true in so much as I can't get to all 270. So this is from Chris. They are in favor of the camping ban. They say it is the compassionate thing to do. The people in camps need mental health services. They need to feel safe in shelters and elsewhere, and they won't without the numerous existing social services available in Tacoma to actually get those in need. The question is, are there enough funds for the PATH team and comprehensive mental health to assist with this and drug and addiction, alcohol addiction challenges? This is where we need to see the funds focused. Thanks for your comment.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, the city just reinstated the funding for that, for positive interactions. Actually, that was reduced as a result of the financial crisis, the pandemic financial crisis, and we're constantly looking at how we can increase our support of folks doing outreach work. I've even suggested to folks who are boots on the ground in an advocacy or a volunteer kind of community effort at encampments, that if they would like to be reimbursed for things like water or supplies, that they are getting into the encampments to support folks there, that I would be open to the city reimbursing for those efforts. But again, those are just temporary. We need to figure out a way for the folks in encampments to experience something much more humane than what they're experiencing right now, and also to mitigate the impacts of the encampments on the surrounding community.
Thank you. We have a smart person. I have a feeling we have lots of smart people in the audience today because Sally actually answered someone else's question about the cost of putting someone in jail. So the cost of incarceration, according to Sally, feel free to fact check Sally if you'd like. The cost of incarceration is a booking fee of $64, a daily incarceration fee of $94.65, and a mental health fee of $259 a day if mental health support is needed. It is expensive. Thank you, Sally. Feel free to send me more smart things. I appreciate that.
And Kenny, I just had I had to put out a lifeline because I knew we were making some investments in the near term and permanent supportive housing. So between 2021 and 2023, we'll be bringing about 400 units of supportive housing online, with about 200 of those being permanent supportive housing. That's between now and 2023.
Can you say that number one more time for the permanent supportive housing?
Around 400 supportive housing units, with
Okay.
about 200 being permanent supportive housing.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is from Tim. They are opposed to the camping ban, but their question is, have city sanctioned encampments been considered as part of the solution?
Yes.
Thank you. Question from Andy. What kind of outreach do you offer to affected private property owners?
So usually we receive complaints from other private property owners, people's neighbors. And so we connect with the private property owner that has the encampment located there, or the leftovers of an encampment that has been left behind. And we can offer support for the cleanup of the property. And then we can also assist the private property owners if they want to, because it's their property, put a no trespass order in place so that individuals who aren't supposed to be there can't be there. We can assist with that. That is something that the city can enforce. We do this similarly. We go in and offer resources and shelter to the individuals who are there on the private property. That includes transport of them and their belongings, or storage of their belongings to a shelter location. And then we also can go in at the city's expense to clean up the garbage and the debris that has been left there. That also, it frequently involves biohazardous waste cleanup. And so instead of passing that expense to the private property owner, the city has determined that it's appropriate for the city to take care of that cost.
Thank you. We have just a couple minutes left. In particular for Mayor Woods and Councilmember Ushka, if you want to wave goodbye or say anything as we go out, just give you a 5-minute heads up for that. We'll also share the poll results. I'm going to try to do a couple questions and a couple comments. Question from Aaron: what other nearby cities have imposed such a ban, and what were the results?
So I will be able to provide more information about that when we have further conversations with the council.
Thank you. Comment in support of the camping ban from Elaine. They say, I'm an owner of an office building at 622 Tacoma Ave. We have campers on the parking strips on 2 sides of the building. There have been several break-ins, thefts, and threats. Our maintenance contractor refuses to come as tools are continually stolen, and some of the campers have been threatening. We are now unable to find new renters because of the encampments. Can you address the problem before the ordinance goes into effect? It is certainly a sanity and safety issue.
So at the top of the meeting, and I can appreciate these concerns, but at the top of the meeting and during the meeting, we've reminded folks that we are not going to be addressing individual encampment concerns. You should be reporting your encampment concerns to Tacoma First 311. And so Allison, would you please put in the Tacoma First 311 mechanism to do that? And then as Chief Wade said, if there is a public health, public safety concern, an immediate concern, dialing 911 is the best way. But those are the ways that you can report those concerns. We don't have the capacity tonight to address the specific locations.
Thank you. Looking for a comment in opposition. Okay, so this is from Allie. They say, I'm opposed to the camping ban since it does not address the root cause. As an ER nurse, I believe in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that people need to have their basic needs, such as shelter, clothes, and food, met in order to move into health and employment. I care for people whose feet are literally falling off because of exposure to the rain. Their faces are falling off in the summer because of sun exposure, and who rely on stimulants to keep them up at night so that their few belongings aren't stolen, who refuse the offer of shelter placement because they have been victimized at shelters. I also see patients who live in so-called wet houses. While they are not the picture of health, their ER visits and health needs are much less, both in resources and taxpayer costs. Is the city involved in this type of housing model? Is the city involving this type of housing model in its future plans?
So what I can say is that there's a couple things happening right now. So I mentioned the supportive housing, the permanent supportive housing, right? But also when we're looking at this alternative response and a different, an alternative shelter model, assessing the needs of medically vulnerable individuals in encampments is something that I'm pretty keen on. I've already been talking with MultiCare and St. Joe's to see how we can do that. We have engaged the Medical Reserve Corps in assessing some of the needs that we're seeing both in the encampments, but also in our faith-based and our stability site and our temporary emergency micro shelter locations. So again, the addressing medically vulnerable needs, harm reduction, increasing our supportive harm reduction models in the encampments, and generally speaking is somewhere that I think the city should be going in the next biennium. So we are looking at how to address the medical needs of individuals.
All right, one more comment in opposition of the ban. This is from Priya. They say, I am opposed to the ban on camping in public spaces. The solution to homelessness is not in criminalizing those who cannot afford Tacoma's increasing cost of living. This type of punitive justice costs the city millions of dollars, when instead we can spend those dollars implementing preventative and equitable policies. Council has many options for housing, increasing the number of high quality shelters, particularly shelters that accept couples, kids, and pets, and adding affordable permanent housing. Please add mid-scale housing plans back into the Home in Tacoma plan. Our unhoused neighbors deserve stability, peace of mind, and to know they have a community around them who cares. Seeing our council members on screen tells me my time is up. Mayor, would you like to see the results of our poll?
I would, Kenny. Before you show the results, though, because I know that that's going to be the highlight of the entire meeting, I do once again want to thank both you and Linda. I see that there are still 286 unanswered questions and 133 that you answered in an hour and a half, which is amazing. So Linda, just really want to express my thanks to you for trying to get through all of those questions. They weren't all administrative in nature. A lot of them were policy in nature. And some of them weren't even directly related to what your department does, Linda. So thank you so much for fielding all of those questions. And the purpose of us not being on screen or answering those questions is that we really wanted to be a staff-driven conversation, to be able to really answer the nuts and bolts about what a camping ban can and cannot do, and to hear from all of you. So as Linda stated, all of the questions and comments will go back to the CVS committee that is led by Councilmember Ushka. They will take a look at all those questions and comments. We will get those questions answered. Linda, will those end up eventually maybe in the FAQ back on the website for all the questions that didn't get answered this evening?
Yes.
I know it may take a little
Yes,
time
Mayor.
to do that, but
Yes, they will.
great. Thank you. So for those of you who didn't have your questions answered tonight, you'll see those on the FAQ. You may see some of the questions combined because there are a lot of questions, and I'm assuming that probably some of those questions may be the same. But just want to thank our staff for being here this evening. And again, want to thank all of you. We are now at 215 people. I think at some point there were close to 300 people on this call tonight. So it is great to see and hear from all of you. We know that this is a topic that a lot of the community is very interested in and has a lot of thoughts and opinions. So with that, Kenny, if you would, 6:58, will you please put the poll up?
Mayor, it was even bigger than 300. We had 379 people participate in the poll. So a lot of
Wow,
people.
and can everybody only participate one time?
Unless they're, computer geniuses that realize they could pop on their phone, but I'm gonna assume relatively good faith.
Gotcha.
All right, our poll results are, we had 379 people, 114 are in support of a camping ban on public property, 223 are not in support of a ban on camping on public property, and 42 feel it's more complicated than that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Kenny. And again, thanks to everybody for registering your thoughts with us. This is an ongoing conversation. And so as said, CVS will take up all of the comments and questions that were given tonight at their meeting on Thursday. And I believe I heard public comment will be taken at that meeting. So that's Thursday. At what time is that meeting, Councilmember Ushka? Is that 4:30 or 4 o'clock?
Mayor, that starts at 4:30, and I'm actually triple checking my calendar as I'm speaking.
Okay.
And we do take public comment at every CVS meeting, and that will be welcome.
Great. So again, this Thursday at 4:30, please tune in and you'll hear the committee have the discussion of what was said tonight, as well as go over some of the comments and questions. And again, you all are welcome to tune in tomorrow night. You can attend tomorrow night's council meeting where the other issue is on the other camping ban issue is on the agenda. But the Community Vitality and Safety Committee will continue down the path that was given to them. And you'll hear where we end up with that here shortly. So again, thank you all for being here this evening. Kenny and Linda, thank you all. And we'll continue this conversation to solve what is an incredibly complex issue in our community that deserves this kind of focus, where we are both trying to make sure that everyone in our homeless community is cared for, and also making sure that property owners in Tacoma have the safety and support that they need. But this issue is much more complicated than just a camping ban. So thank you all for being here this evening. Look forward to hearing from you, and look forward to solving the issues that we face in this city together. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.